Oh, hey, gang. We're back again. Kevin Strange here,
Brad.
and we're in
Brad.
this. We're in the steakhouse.
Right. Stink in the house.
We're in the steakhouse. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Pretty good. What are we? We're 15 minutes late because, as I warned you, this never goes the same way twice.
Right. 15 minutes is really, I feel like, considered on time if you think about it. uh,
I'm underwater over here, buddy. I'm
I
I'm
was, I
floating to work.
you might have. Did you snorkel there today? You got your snorkel out?
Yeah,
Had it on over? Yeah.
I'm like a. I'm in a. I work on a boat apparently.
Like that. I'm on a boat, bitch.
Yeah,
I'm on a boat, bitch. I'm drawing comic shit, pretty much.
that's right. It's This is, I guess, the second highest flood of all time for the Alton area.
Yeah, when I keep seeing, I like look at pictures of it, and I'm like, Jesus, man. And then you see pictures of like semi trucks drawn into it, like drop. That's like, did the guy not notice that I can't fucking just like, they talk about autopilot,
Right.
some hardcore autopilot when all of a sudden you're 18 wheeler, you're like, oh, fuck, man. But
Yeah, dude, it's so annoying getting down here every day. They've got so many of the roads blocked off, and it's like become a tourist spot. All the looky loos from the
yeah,
freaking tri-state area want
everybody
to come and
come see that shit, man.
yeah, they're coming to look at the puddle, and I'm right here, like the barriers that they put up to block off the river are right in front of my office. So I've actually started parking 2 blocks away up a hill, just in case the levees break.
Yeah.
Then I can at least swim to my car, and my car won't be underwater.
Bringing your snorkel and that work every day.
Yeah,
It's funny though, because whenever that stuff starts happening, like people from other places, they want to come see it, and all we want to do is leave.
yeah, and there's so few ways in and out right now, and there's so much like tension from the work crews because they're trying to keep these makeshift, man-made levees from busting, and sending all these tourists down the river.
Yeah, because that's
And
not good for your city when you got a bunch of tourists, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, we killed them, they died.
they're all dead. Yeah, it's pretty crazy down here, man. It's pretty crazy. But whatever, it is what it is, and I still come to work every day.
Yeah,
That's what the deal is. It's part of the you get what you pay for, right? You work right next to the river, and you deal with river flooding.
yeah. When you live by it, you pretty much come to realize that it's just something that's going to be there sometimes, man.
What's crazy is a couple weeks ago, me and my dad went fishing out in Campsville,
Mm-hmm.
and they had to close the Campsville ferry Sunday night, and now Campsville is completely shut off from uh, the outside world. It's like an island now, and literally anybody that's still in Campsville has to take their own boat across the river to get to what is that, Carrollton,
Yeah,
across the river.
yeah.
Um, and even when we were up there, man, we had his big truck, and he was just dry. Like the water was well over well onto the other side of the roads, and just sitting. It was like it might have, the river might have crested, but all that water wasn't going anywhere. That's the water that had come over onto the road and across the road, and it was just gonna, sit there for the time being. And we were just driving through that stuff, man. We probably had to drive through 7 of those things to get up to the property where they've got a pond
Yeah.
where we can fish, and we barely got in there, even in the truck. And it's the flooding is even worse now, so I don't even think we could get there, even with the truck now.
Yeah, the thing, a lot of people that live around that stuff, though, man, they know it and then they love it. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like,
yeah, yeah, those are hillbillies.
yeah, they love that river and they take the bad with the good.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of them have they have like dry docks
Mm-hmm.
for when the water comes up. I'm like, because I'm looking at these houses as I drive by, and I'm like, that's a dock, and they've got a little boat on it, but this isn't supposed to be underwater.
Yeah, I mean,
This
there's
is
certain areas around there where a boat is like how normal people look at a car. Like,
yeah,
you
absolutely,
gotta have them.
absolutely. You know what the craziest thing is when we were driving? one of the little puddles on the road that we were trying to drive through, we saw there was a gigantic fucking carp flopping in the middle of the road in the water, and my dad ended up grabbing it and throwing it in the back of the truck, and we didn't know what it was at the time. We thought it was a catfish or something. It was huge. Then we went over that Campsville ferry, and the guy was like, "That's a fucking carp. You don't want to eat that. That's all just bones and bullshit."
Carp are some of the funnest fish to catch, though. They're crazy strong.
Yeah, this thing was huge.
Yeah,
this thing was like 2 foot long at least. I mean, it was fucking enormous. Because we had a bucket for the other fish. We caught a bunch of bass. There's no way this thing would have fit in the bucket.
I remember what was that? Was it 93? Was that the year, the real crazy one, I think?
Yeah, the big one.
Yeah, and after that flood, me and my stepdad drove over into West Alton, and dude, you could find like there'd be like 30-pound catfish just laying in puddles, like after the water had went back.
Yeah.
Because not like the water will go back and everything doesn't always get pulled with it. You could just walk through these little bitty areas of water that you would feel like were pretty much just like puddles, but there'd be big fish laying in them,
Yeah.
But yeah, those I don't know, dude. I always liked the river. I grew up around the river. I fished a lot when I was a kid. I fished a lot when I was, even a teenager, and I really do like the river, but I am glad I don't live that close to it,
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass for sure.
Yeah. For me up here where I am, it's like something biblical would have to happen.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that I think is really cool about the Metro East. I'm not going to suck the dick of the Metro East very much because there's not a lot to like here, but I try to find the silver lining even when you live in the middle of, a remote Midwestern, small town bullshit, which is basically just white trash and pills and heroin overdoses. There's not a lot to like out here, but one of the things that I like about where we live is we are so close. We're within 30 minutes of St. Louis.
Yeah.
So we have the ability to experience culture if we want to, and we have the ability to completely tune it out and live this real rural country lifestyle if we want to. And it's this weird blend of city and country that I guess every city has like a rural area connected to it, but I feel like this, Metro East St. Louis area is kind of unique in that aspect where we have the ability to experience culture and the ability to completely avoid it at the same time if we want.
Yeah, we can listen to Randy Travis, or we can go to some sort of weird rave in downtown St. Louis. It's whatever you like.
Yeah. Well, that was my big thing when I was a teenager, 15, 16 years old, was me and my buddy, we'd grab a Riverfront Times every week, and we'd look through who was playing at the Galaxy and the Mississippi Nights.
Dude, those are two of my favorite venues ever, and they're both gold.
Yeah, Galaxy, Mississippi Nights. What else was there out there? There was all kinds of. Of course, there's Pops now. I don't know if Pops was.
I always loved the Creepy Crawl.
Creepy Crawl was real dingy and grimy.
They had a different venue at some point too. But that old original one was pretty grimy. Yeah, that'd be a word you could use for it, I would say.
I think I went to that. I think I went to Creepy Crawl once, if it's the venue that I remember.
It was mostly like a glorified closet.
Yeah, and the stage is only like a foot off the ground.
Yeah, it was
like you're right. The band is basically playing right at eye level, right in front of you. Yeah. And the band I went to see was this band called Guitar Wolf. Have you ever heard of them?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Guitar Wolf is this weird Japanese punk band that they emulate 50s American 50s greaser style. Yeah. So they have like greaser hair and sunglasses and leather jackets and rolled up denim jeans.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I mean, like the rolled bottoms.
Yeah.
Like the greaser look.
Yeah.
And they actually are they starred in a weird Japanese zombie movie in the 90s called Wild Zero.
Mm-hmm.
And they became like this cult band over here And I don't know if they had ever toured America before. I think it might have been their first American tour, and they played the fucking Creepy Crawl. And this venue was packed fucking front to back, sold out. And they were playing right in front of us, man. They were playing a foot off the stage. It was
Yeah, that
just, it
was
was
like the main appeal of the creepy crawl was it was like so little you pretty much felt like you were on stage with whoever you were seeing. It was extremely. I mean, you tasted the person next to you. You know.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Now that might not have been the Creepy Crawl, but I think it was, and it might have been the new Creepy Crawl. They might have built the new Creepy Crawl the same way.
Yeah, I was in the new one time, and it was a lot bigger than the original one. I think the original one was on Market. I think is where the original one set.
This was like 2008, so it was a long time ago. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it
The
probably would have been
details of it.
the original one, and if it was that year.
But anyway, that's the kind of thing you can go over to St. Louis and do, or you can like
We're in
go
some cow stables, if that's what you're into.
exactly. Which is, again, I like that. I've been to a lot of cities. I've done a lot of traveling. I've been to Chicago. I've been to Atlanta. I've been to Louisville and Lexington, Kentucky. I've been to New Jersey. I've been to a bunch of cities in Pennsylvania. I've been to Cleveland, Cincinnati, and the other big city in Ohio I can't think of. I've been to Portland, Oregon. I've been to Orlando, Florida. I've been to a ton of cities, and this is like I said, the ability to have such a crazy disconnected rural lifestyle and a city like St. Louis is just it's pretty cool. I like living here. I've like being in Chicago, especially. There's so many fucking people. You are, shoulder to shoulder with human beings. I remember one time I was downtown in rush hour in a bus, in the back of the bus, and I was shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow with the bus was packed front to back. You couldn't walk forward if you wanted to. Outside the bus, there were cars completely jammed in rush hour traffic, bumper to bumper, side to side. The bus couldn't get out of traffic if it tried. And on the sidewalk next to the bus and next to the road, there were so many people shoulder to shoulder and elbow to elbow that they couldn't move forward if they tried. And I was so claustrophobic and thinking to myself, like, this is unnatural to have this many human beings in the same proximity with one another. And I know that a lot of people get off on that. They get off on being around.
I can't do
Huh?
I can't do it when it's like that. It's when it's like packed in that way. Like
Yeah. And what I like about the Metro East here is that you can go experience that in the city and then you can spread back out here.
yeah, and
You can breathe. You can go to the country air and there's not a soul around. There's not a single car. There's not a single person. It's just nature, and you can just let the crazy unravel and not have to worry about any human beings. And I don't. But see, if you go further, like southeast or northeast of the Metro East area, it gets so rural that you have no connection to city life and you're just a country bumpkin.
yeah. And
that's
it can get sketchy either way, you know.
Exactly. Because that country bumpkin lifestyle, it's like
That's something a lot of people in this area take for granted is that we kind of can have either that we want,
Yeah. And I think that it adds to that even the reddest redneck in the Metro East still has to be confronted with a little bit of culture.
Yeah.
So there's an open-mindedness to the Metro East rednecks, which sounds silly because they're still riding around hee-hawing, listening to country music with rebel flags hanging out of the back of their giant 4x4. But there's an awareness of the outside world that doesn't exist in rednecks that are a little more isolated.
Yeah, I mean, I know, like when I was a kid, I'd be at parties and it'd be like the kids that were considered like the skateboarders hanging out with kids that were wearing like Western shirts, and
Yeah,
I think it makes the even like the other side of the like the people, the ones that are more not hillbilly. Nobody around here really hates hillbillies because everybody knows and loves a hillbilly somewhere.
they're a part of our families and they're our neighbors. And when you live in an area that has enough, rural white trash to it, you know that those guys are the ones that are going to save you in the event that something when the shit goes down.
Yeah,
It's the rednecks you
exactly.
want to be around.
Yeah, that's the exact truth too.
They're
'Cause
so self-sufficient and they're so knowledgeable about nature and how to like navigate it that they're not just racist drunks. They might be racist and they might be drunk, but there's more to them than that.
yeah,
And a lot of people like if they're from the city or from the suburbs and they only know like rednecks from TV and movies and culture.
from Deliverance, you only know the rednecks from
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
e- exactly. You only ever get the negatives. You only ever see them as villains. They're
yeah.
only ever one-dimensional villains. But when you actually live around an area like this, you know that you can tolerate their shortcomings because they do have a lot of positive qualities too.
Yeah,
And like you said, it's like me whenever I was a teenager, I was a big metalhead, and I like took that St. Louis music culture. So I had the hairstyle and the band shirts and the cadence and all that stuff of the St. Louis metalheads and not the white trash country bumpkins, but we all still got along. Like you said, it's just we all sort of mix in together.
yeah. It's a melt. What do they call it? It's like a potluck.
Yeah.
It's got
Yeah.
everybody here.
So what are you working on today, brother?
I'm just lining this page. It's actually it'll be page like 27 or something in this book, and I'm just kind of lining it. And I got the whole thing laid out right here in pencil. And I don't spend really a shitload of time when I pencil these out because I just figure that I'll kind of clean it up when I go in and start doing it in Clip Studio. So I just kind of rough out my characters and my boxes, and then I just start hammering out my digital work. So that's what I'm doing right here is just lining out this. This is what's going on here is at the end of the comic, the lump gore, he's like a big four-armed giant that is the leader of the Gardonia 5, the gnome planet, and he's pretty much raining down hell on all of them, and they're trying to figure out how they're going to get off the planet. And this is that space travel helmet that Riggs built right here, and they want to use it, but there's no power source on this planet. So Riggs comes up with the idea that Junior can put it on, and stick the plug up his butt, and the lump gore shoots this big. He has a third eye in the top of his head, and he shoots this big ray out of it, and like destroys shit. Well, he decides that they're going to put the helmet on, stick the plug up his butt, and taunt the lump gore to shoot him, and hope that ray like activates the helmet, and we'll suck them back off the planet and back to where they need to be. But this thing here is Junior being like, there's no, he doesn't want to put it up his butt, and they're trying to explain to him that it's the only way, and naturally that your butt is nature's own power socket. Like,
Of course it is.
yeah, I mean, what else would it be?
That's cool. I'm going to show some of my work here. We work a little differently. We can talk about that in a little bit. Actually, we can talk about it now if you want to. Like the difference between, like, we have a little, our workflows right now are a little bit different in that you work on one page at a time, and so you've roughed out your work with pencil, and then do you have a scanner that you scan that page into your?
I do have a scanner I use, or sometimes I'll just take a picture of it and load that onto my. It just depends on how I do it, but I do have a scanner if that's the route I go.
The problem that I've run into with taking a picture is I end up like not balancing it correctly. It's not so the bottom panel will like look fatter than the top panel
Yeah.
because I've taken the picture from a weird angle. And like I'm trying to balance it out and level it, but I never seem to get the level exactly right. So I just take these down to Office Depot. My friend works there, and I have her scan all my pages when I'm done. But what I do, the difference is, and you've sort of at the end of your book, you penciled out the last 10 pages or so all at the same time, and now you're going back and inking them. But that's what I do for the entire book. So what I have is I have this big 11 by 17 notebook, and what I do is I start with these 3 by 5 note cards, and I actually do the entire book in 3 by 5 note cards so that I can lay out. So I go off my script and I start. So when I originally write my script, I write it like a movie. I write it like things are just happening, and I don't worry about panels or pages. I just write the story, and then when the story is written, I go back and I grab a stack of blank note cards, and I go back to the script and I start breaking each page down into panels. And then as I break each page down, I scribble it down onto a note card, 3 by 5 note card, and figure out exactly what the panel, how many panels are going to be, and what the rough layout of the panel is going to look like. And I do that for each page. Then I go through the entire book and I lay out the panels. And for me, that is like that's a proof of concept. That shows me exactly what the book can look like. Like this is almost exactly what the entire issue of the comic book looks like. And then when I finish, so I go page by page, go to the script page, the next script page, I panel out, and then I draw I do a proof of what that's going to look like on the note card, and then I move on. And I do that till the entire book's done. I get the entire stack of note cards, and then I take the note cards as reference, and I grab an 11 by 17 notebook, and then I do the exact same thing, where now I lay out the the panels, if not exactly the same, similarly, and then I start worrying about composition more. So the composition, you'll notice, is a little bit different from the squiggles on the panels to what the actual 11 by 17 panels might look like. But I don't go in and do the hard pencils right away. My first pass looks like this. And what I do is I have this big fat graphite pencil, and this phase is I lay out my panels, and then I roughing in what the composition of each panel is going to look like, and I try to balance it. I think about camera angles, and I think about dynamic poses, and I think about how each panel ties into the next panel, and where the word bubbles are going to go, and just basically how each of these things is going to look as a piece of art. And the reason that I scribble it all in with a graphite pencil is I can easily and quickly change poses and add things and subtract things, erase the entire thing and try again. I'm not committing to much if I just am scribbling with a graphite pencil. And there's also, you can see all this energy. You can see all the energy that goes into each of these shots. How much energy exists just inside these scribbled lines. And I sort of try to capture that energy then when I go in and do the hard pencils. I try to keep that. So this is a page that I did yesterday. I try to keep the same energy that I found with the graphite pencil. I go in and do a more detailed hard pencil sketch, and you notice that I don't really work on backgrounds, and I certainly don't do any shading. This is a nice solid outline for me to throw into Clip Studio and then ink over. But almost all the work is done at this point. Almost all the line work is done in the pencil phase. So my inking phase is really a lot more about tracing the energy from the pencil shots into a digital form. And then the creative work starts again when I start to color. And then I add the background textures. and I add the text and word bubbles and everything. But this is really where the majority of my work goes. This pencil phase right here is I want everything to look as good as I can, and I fuck up a lot of it. Like there's things that I'll draw. I drew this hand yesterday about 5 different times, and I still don't like it, but it's in there good enough that whenever I go to do the ink work digitally, I'll be able to nail it. 2 or 3 more passes on that hand, and I'll be happy with it.
Yeah, that's kind of like my pencils are usually nowhere near perfect. I just will get it where like the kind of like the shape and the direction of what I'm trying to achieve is there, and then I will spend my time on the in Clip Studio getting it where it's exactly right. I just kind of use it as like a reference, I guess, sometimes, and not all the time. Sometimes there is things that I exactly just trace, just kind
it all depends on, you're looking at it like, no, that's good. That's good enough. I want to, and then you're like nervous as you're trying to trace over it in ink. Like, oh, I hope this looks as good.
It's pretty much a balancing act of, did I fuck it up in pencils and have to fix it in Clip Studio, or did I nail it in pencils and I'll fuck it up in Clip Studio? Which one is it?
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Which one is it going to be today?
Which one's it going to be today? So this is what I try to do. I try to do 4 pages a day, and that's any process. So I try to do 4 of these thumbnails every day. Usually I can get more like 10 of them done, but I always aim for 4. And when I'm in this phase and I aim for 4 and I get 10, I feel like I'm the biggest dick in the world, like fucking swinging it around like I did motherfucking 10 today, even though it's this tiny, these tiny sketches.
I just try to get something done every day, and then I'm happy. I just like can't ever find I still have a fairly inconsistent output. It seems like some days I'll get so much shit done that I'm like, man, and then other days it's like, what did I even do today?
Yeah.
I think that some of that might even itself out as I just keep working on it.
Yeah. My whole thing is I have to, if I don't have an absolute strict regiment every single day, like if my goals aren't clearly laid out in front of me, I'll do nothing. Brother, believe me, I can spend 8 hours a day watching YouTube videos and porn.
Oh yeah.
Without hesitation.
Yeah, a couple bags of burritos and
I can waste some motherfucking time. And in order to fend off that laziness, I have to have a very strict schedule that I stick to. I have to be here in the office at 9 a.m. I have to start working on my 4 pages as soon as I get here and eat breakfast. And then if I do that, if I accomplish that, I can usually work. People talk about my work ethic, but I laugh because I have no work ethic. It's like, I guess naturally, like I have no natural work ethic. It's all smoke and mirrors. I have to set myself up for success completely, or I will fail every time. And I guess some people are naturally motivated, like they fly out of bed in the morning and they're just ready to go and can take on the world. Yeah. If I don't have
one kind of mental illness in its own,
yeah. If I don't have a goal laid out the night before, this is what I have to do when I get up. I have to get up. I have to take a shower. I have to take a shower. I have to put clean clothes on. I have to walk out the door. I have to get in my car. I have to drive to the office. I have to do 4 pages. I have to answer emails. I have to post on Instagram, and I have to go back home, and I have to get ready to go to work at night. If I don't know that when I'm going to bed, I'll fuck my whole day up. I'll spend my whole day in bed watching YouTube. I won't even put pants on until 4 in the afternoon. And people don't think of me like that. They think of me as the guy that's made all these movies and written all these books and these comics. But the fact of the matter is I'm lazier than any of you. Yeah, I promise you, I will win the lazy Olympics.
I tell people all the time, like the only reason I have pants on is because the law says that I have to wear pants. It's a disgusting thing when you have to put them on all the time.
One of the big tricks that I've also done to myself in the last year was renting this office. This office is like 15, 20 minutes away from my house. So I've set myself up in a way that it is not convenient for me to get bored and restless and just go home.
Yeah.
It's quite a drive, and I'm not coming back. By the time I drive there, and by the time I drive here in the morning and then drive home, the last thing I'm going to do is drive here and drive home again. So you work in your house. I used to write books in my house, and it was I just can't get anything done. I keep telling myself I'll go over to the table and work in 15 minutes. And 3 hours later I'll do it in 15 minutes. And I swear to God, there are days I was working on novels where I would say I'd have to be at work at 5. At 3:45, I'd finally get to my table and do 15 minutes of work, and then feel like I accomplished something for the day.
Yeah, I have a friend that has a business that he ran out of his house for a long time, and then recently got an office. And he said that the what the office does is show his brain that he's at work. Because when you work in your house, it's easy to be like, well, I can start whenever I want, or I'll go in there when the phone rings, or different things like that.
Yeah, exactly. You trick yourself into not doing anything all day. Like I said, I would do 15 minutes of work, and then I'd head into my night job and be like, well, at least I got 15 minutes done. No, fuck that. That's not an accomplishment.
Like a hard dump, Like,
Exactly.
the amount of work you're doing in a day is like what it takes to take a dump. It's not going to get anything done,
Exactly. So the way I set it up now, and I've been working this way for about the last year. I think I'm at like my 14-month anniversary here at the office. I can do 5 hours of work easy, and I try to do more than that. But actual drawing, I try to draw for about 5 hours a day, and I only do 4 pages, so I can go pretty slow.
Yeah.
Or I can get ahead and I can do 5 or 6 pages, because some days life happens. You walk outside and your tire's flat, or your transmission fluid's all over the fucking the pavement in front of your house, or some other
water, or
yeah. So life happens, and getting ahead on good days allows those bad days when you just like nothing. It's totally out of your control and you just can't get anything done. You're ahead on those good days.
Yeah, and I think for people that are like I think we talked a little bit yesterday about if like we don't stay busy, like staying busy creatively keeps people that have that like drive to do that happier. So why not do it every day?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like what are you gonna do if we're not doing it? Like all we're gonna do is what you just said, which is like plow Doritos into our face and watch YouTube videos and porn.
Yeah, and there's nothing in this world that makes me more miserable and depressed than watching YouTube videos and porn all day. Like there's nothing. It's that is the brain version of fast food.
Yeah.
Of potato chips. While you're shoving literal potato chips into your face,
you're shoving your brain too.
Yeah, you're shoving it in your brain too. And even though you're getting like mini dopamine hits from that, it's overall going to cause really severe depression over time. And so I have to stay busy. I'm never happier in my life than when I wake up early, start working early, work all day and all night, and just collapse into bed exhausted.
Well,
and
then
some people
you sleep instead of laying there in your brain being like, "Hey, man," like
exactly.
When you're tired, you actually just fall asleep. It's kind of like it almost feels like it's how you're supposed to do.
Exactly. When people talk about insomnia, I'm like, well, what did you do? Nap till 4 in the afternoon and then watch TV for the rest of the night and start drinking energy drinks at 10 p.m. And then you're like, I can't sleep. My brain won't stop. So,
yeah, or I can't sleep. I was on my phone until 6 in the morning. It's like, well, did you think about shutting your phone off?
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, these are just little things that I use that help me to have this work ethic that you guys all think is this like naturally built in like drive for success or whatever. It really is me tricking myself out of laziness every day.
You use the placebo effect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So anyway, I did a few pages. I want to show off. I kind of want to do this every day, is kind of talk about what I want to get done and then show off what I did or didn't get done the day before, and kind of use this show as kind of like a diary of production, like a production diary of the comics. And this is kind of spoilery stuff, and the same thing with yours. But I'm not really going to explain much. I'm just going to show the work because I kind of want these comics to be a surprise for the reader. I don't want to spoil the fun of the story. But even though I'm showing you the pictures, it's all out of context and stuff. So this was page 1 from yesterday. Wasn't really a lot to it, just 4 figures. I really concentrate on the faces and the hands and the poses being energetic. And so that's really what I spend a lot of time on. As you can see, there's no background. There's really roughed in spots for the word bubbles to go. And I can move those around and do whatever with those. That's the first page I did. And then second page I did was really fun. As you can see, our villainess has just gotten she's just out of control at this point. 6 arms, 6 tits. She's got some kind of a parasitic worm growing out of her she dick, and things are just they're getting crazy. And yeah, this is this is the climax of the whole book, of the whole series. But this image in particular of her growing so tall, her body's completely off the planet. This is the planet down here, which when it's colored in, it'll look more like a planet than a squiggly line. But I want to show you guys something because this is neat. To me, it's neat. I wrote the original draft script for Dead Shit the comic book back in November, and I wrote the entire thing. So all 3 issues, the whole thing will be about 120 pages when I'm done. I wrote the whole thing back. I wrote it all at once. So I didn't write issue 1 and draw issue 1 and release issue 1, and then write issue 2 and draw issue 2 and release issue 2 and then write issue 3. What I did was I wrote the entire comic, and then I went back and rewrote issue 1 and made it better before I drew it. And then I rewrote issue 2 and made it better before I released it. And then I rewrote issue 3. But the main story never changed throughout the whole process. So I want to show you guys something. This panel right here, one of the very first things I drew for this comic book. I'm going to grab this real quick. I was experimenting with pen and ink. I hadn't really used pen and ink before. I'm so brand new to drawing. Like this stuff is super brand new to me. So a lot of this is still experimentation. But I bought some ink pens and I bought some ink brushes and some ink. And this is one of the first images I drew from the Dead Shit comic book. Was when I wrote this scene of her growing so big she came off the planet. I thought I wanted to draw it because I thought it was cool. She's a monster by this time. She's crazy. As you can see, her face has kind of changed a lot since I drew this, because I hadn't even drawn her in human form yet, let alone her different iterations, her different mutations throughout the comic. So this face looks a little bit different, but as you can see, yesterday I finally got to draw a picture that I originally conceived of back in November. I finally got to draw that panel, and that might not be impressive to anybody else, but to me, it's like being able to look that far ahead and anticipate the ending of this book, and then actually, and even plan it out with a picture like that, and then to get here all these months later. It's been, what has it been? It's been 7 months. I don't care who you are. If you plan a project out 7 months and then you get there and you're happy with where you're at, a 7-month project that's an accomplishment.
Hell yeah, that's the part of this that makes it gratifying. It makes everything that you do every day, when it feels like you're just chipping away, and then when you finally see all the pieces that you chipped away at into the thing that you were making.
Yeah, I don't know, brother. This creation and this kind of long-term planning and long-term creating stories and comics, movies, books, whatever. It's what gets me off. This is what I live for. I live for planning out this big sweeping graphic novel, 120 pages, and then just grinding away every day for 7 months, chipping, a little more, a little more, a little more, and then finally the whole thing. When the whole thing's done, it's like, fucking did that. I did that with my fucking hands and my brain. And I've heard people that are into construction that build houses. They'll say the same thing. They'll finish a work on a house and be like, I fucking did that. I built somebody's house. And it's like that. People that are really into that kind of construction, like building houses,
and be like, it's like anytime you pass that house, you think about, I'm the one that put that there.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of that, like a lot of people that are really into house building and stuff, they get off on that. They really do. They get off on the fact that started with a concrete structure and one piece of wood, and it's eventually a house somebody's going to live in for their, kids might be born there and live there their whole, till they're adults.
Houses by far outlive families. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just in the last year, my grandma had lived in her house for 60 years, and she went into a assisted living, and her house went up for sale, and a new family bought it, and it's like the cycle starts over.
Yeah, yeah, and that's I think that's a really interesting comparison with art, because art always outlives the artist.
Yeah,
and it can be passed on, and people can enjoy these stories. These stories, the kind of stories that I'm drawing, these comics that I'm making, and the kind of comics you're making too. These aren't timely. I'm not telling any kind of like cultural story with this that's relevant to today. I'm just telling funny stories to make people laugh with butthole humor, and you're doing the same.
Right.
And so 20 years from now, 30 years from now, and get out of it, and we could be dead by then. We could not even be around anymore, and our art will still be able to be enjoyed by others.
It's like if you look at like Looney Tunes, you can watch a Looney Tunes cartoon and it's still as good as it was the day that it was put out. You don't ever look at it
and all those people that were involved with it. Yeah, and all the people involved in those, I think all of them now are dead, aren't they? There might still be a couple voice actors.
But most of them, most of those original dudes are gone, and the art form is still as beautiful and great as it was then.
Well, and it still inspires. Like, that's the thing that really gets me going. Is, say 30 years from now, somebody picks up my comic books and the art isn't great, the story's funny, just in the right way, that they say, you know what, I'm going to pick up a pencil and I'm going to draw my comic book and I'm going to tell my story because I can do this. Like, my whole thing with movies and books and comics has been to inspire others, to show them that you don't have to be a virtuoso genius that absolutely blows the guy next to you out of the water, with talent wise.
You have to be, you just got to find your way to do it.
You don't have to be the most fucking talented guy in the room. And so many people choke up and refuse to make art and tell stories because they think they have to be the best at it. You don't have to be the best at it. You have to be good enough. You have to be good for yourself.
Yeah, that's what it is, really. And just really, I think some of that is like, don't think about what other people do, Like, don't think about some artist that you look at, and then if your stuff doesn't look like his and it's trash, that's not you wouldn't want your stuff to look just like some other person's art, anyway.
Right. But some of the best advice I ever got was, don't ever compare yourself to someone else. Compare yourself to you yesterday.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Always try to be a little bit better than you were yesterday.
Yeah, don't think about, even if it's your favorite artist, don't start comparing your stuff to their stuff, because and usually, even when you do that, you're kind of usually looking at it through a biased eye that doesn't see it true anyway,
Right. So you think it's way better than it is, or you're ignoring the flaws and just looking at the things that you think are out of reach for yourself.
Yeah.
Like, I look at this girl, I look at this villainous face right here, and the expression, like, she's now, like, I didn't draw it in here because I'm going to do it digitally, but she's got icicles coming off of her horns and her nose and her nipple because she's freezing in the vacuum of space, and
Mhm.
just the pained expression on her face. I don't think I could have drawn that a year ago. And I'm not saying that's great. This is cartoony and rough and weird, but the fact that I can create an expression on a female monster's face is something that I would have thought was out of my reach a year ago.
Yeah, when I started drawing these dudes on here, it was like, well, in some of my comics, the guys always seem kind of lost anyway. You know, they're just kind of always blank stare. But at the, how everybody in my book just always looks brain dead with snot dripping out of their nose. You know, but but it's one thing to draw a face, and then it's another thing to make that face show a feeling. You know, you can draw on a face is challenging within its own, but then if you're thinking like, all right, I need this guy to look hurt right here, I need him to look excited, I need him to look scared, and all that's like its own challenge sometimes, you know.
And every time I nail it, like again to my own standards, I'm not saying this is good art, but to my standards, like when I nail it, when I get this picture right here, the way it looks right here, and I go, fuck yeah. I mean, to me, that's like a day. Like I'm gonna be on cloud nine for the rest of the day after I draw a picture like this, because I it's like it's like I still have to prove to myself every day that I can draw what I've written, that I can convey the emotions and the comedy and the grotesqueness of my story, because I'm still so new to art that it's like every day I have to wake up and convince myself that I can do this.
Yeah, when I wrote this little thing, and then when I got to the part of it at the end where like the lump board comes out and all that, I was like, well, man, I never really thought about having to draw this big weird thing, and it was kind of I honestly for a little bit was like, well, I fucked myself, I can't do that, you know. I can't probably draw that, but then I just
exactly.
Just started kind of fucking with it and then eventually it was like, oh man, you know, it looks cool, you know, to me, and so then I was like, all right, then I got comfortable with doing it, but like I said, it looks cool to me, so I'm happy with it. Like someone else might look at it and be like, yeah, this guy can't draw that, you know what I mean? But yeah, it is like you just kind of, it's like anything else, man. Like nobody's born knowing how to do really too much. You know what I mean?
Right, but
you just gotta.
really, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna say you just gotta whittle at it. You know, just start whittling away at whatever you're trying to do, and eventually, you know, it will start coming into shape.
Yeah, people have this really weird, like laymen, people, non-artists have this such a weird conception of art because it looks like a magic trick, that they think that it is magic, like it's this mystical metaphysical thing that you like have. It's like, oh, this gift of art that you have is so, you're so blessed with your artistic gifts. It's like every single day is a challenge to learn the techniques to get us here. This is all perspective, this is all layout design, this is all contrasting shapes, you know what I mean? Like this is all principles of geometry that create this. Yeah. And some people have like better spatial relations in their head. They can visualize geometry better than others. We were talking about being thumb dyslexic yesterday.
Yeah.
Drawing thumbs on the wrong side. I have terrible that until I let the way I want it to look, I can scribble it down with a pencil, with a graphite pencil, because I have to show myself on paper what the hell this is supposed to look like. Like this shot here of her, you know, it's an under, the camera's really low to the ground and it shoots up and shows just how tall she's becoming. And she has to get skinnier and skinnier and skinnier and longer and longer and longer and go into this like this triangle. It took me a long time to figure out how to draw that because it's not something that I could easily see in my head how to make the bottom set of hands bigger and like they're closer to the screen, and the dick parasite closer to the screen, and then the second pair of tits smaller than the first, smaller head, even smaller, last set of arms smaller, and that creates that effect of her getting taller and taller and taller and moving away from you. When people look at that and say, "Oh, you have such a gift," that's not a fucking gift, man. That's hours of work, of trial and error and failure, trying to build this structure of this chick. And maybe I'm making it sound, maybe I'm being dramatic and making drawing sound harder than it is. But for me, it's really hard. It really is. Like, it really is me beating myself up all day trying to figure out how to make this shot look the way it's supposed to look.
Yeah, nothing artistic. I don't know. I've drawn for a long time, but I still don't really, I still don't really consider myself good at it. It's just something I've done for a long time, you know. And I all the time, dude, I'll be drawing something and I'll be like, especially when it comes to, like we were talking about the other day, hands and stuff like that. I'll be like, hey Amanda, that's my wife. I'll be like, show me your hand like this. You know, I'll have her like do what I'm trying to draw with her hands so I can see it with my eyes. And that's like a really common thing that I have to do, because sometimes my brain just doesn't get it, you know. Like I said, thumbs on the other side of the hand constantly, you know.
Thumb dyslexia. Yeah, I'm always messing stuff up, and that's just part of it. I think some people have better spatial relations in their heads and they can see it easier. I mean, some people need references. Some people have to use a reference for every single thing they draw. Like, instead of struggling through this with shapes and graphite pencils and sketching it out, a lot of artists who are going to save time and not beat themselves up as much as me would just go find a similar image. They would just go find this on the internet. Now, I'm not saying exact picture, but I'm saying something like it. Like, what I ended up doing was I ended up looking at a Power Rangers image, because I remembered that Power Rangers, like the villains, when they would grow really big, they'd like kneel down at the camera and then stand up, and they would look huge because the camera angle was so low. And I was like, I just need to look up Power Ranger villain grow, and I found still images. Like, I found still shots, like screen caps from Power Rangers, and I was able to see what it looks like. And I don't think I did it for this image, but there's like for this image here where it's just a giant butt, where they're like they're talking about it's actually Nixon talking about how in love he is with her giant ass in this shot.
Good looking one.
Yeah, but I think I used the Power Rangers thing to try to figure out how to draw the perspective on that. But here, another page that I drew yesterday. The last page I drew yesterday, you actually see Nixon has now got his phone out and is taking pictures of her giant ass.
Those are really, they're awesome. The thing is, yeah, it's wild. That's what I think me and you were talking a couple of weeks ago about, just all the kind of nudity in our books, and
yeah.
I was kind of just paying attention to your book. Has a lot of everything in it. My book's just got mostly dicks, you know. I was like, the next one I make, I'm gonna have to throw a couple other, you know, things in there other than just dicks everywhere, man. You know?
Yeah. All right. I guess we're at our hour. Looks like you're back on your screen now. How far did you get?
I got about the whole top part done, lined out. I'm gonna go. I'll finish it today, and then probably go ahead and start coloring it today, and hopefully get it completely knocked out by the end of the day, and then I'll be down. I didn't get much else done after we got off here yesterday. We've been rearranging a bunch of rooms in my house and moving this room to where whatever's going on in this room is going to start going on in this room. So when we got off here yesterday, I went back to doing that for the day, but today I'm going to sit here and keep hammering for a little while.
That's cool.
The plan.
This was my last page yesterday, and I've got starting on this page today, and I've got four pages to do. I haven't done it. I sat here and didn't draw a thing for a drawing show. I sure as fuck haven't done much. 1, 2, 3. I have to get through to this page here. And then I only have 8 pages left. This is one of the final pages. So today and tomorrow, I should finish up my pencils tomorrow. And then it's off to Office.
You move into Clip Studio? Is that where you move to next?
Yeah, off to the Office Depot, scan it all, upload. What I do is I don't know how your workflow is. I save every process on the Gmail cloud.
Yeah.
That way, if the Office is completely sunk underwater, or it blows up, or my computer shits the bed, no matter what happens, I still have all my. So what I'll do is when I scan all these images, not only do I save them on my hard drive, but then I upload them to the cloud and make sure that I have copies of the scans. So I'll always have the scans no matter what. Then when I go in and do each page, when I finish inking a full page, I upload that page to the cloud. And so by the time I'm done inking the inking process, all 52 pages will be in the cloud.
I had something a while back happen where I had worked on a page for like a day and a half, and I don't exactly know what went down, but somehow or the other I wound up losing it. And so now I have like a OCD of how many different ways can I save this thing, you know?
Yeah.
So I like almost every device in my home has multiple things saved on it, because when you lose a page that you've worked on like that, it's like extremely like getting gutted, you know?
Yeah, people used to tell me that they'd lose whole novels. They'd have 47,000 words written and then lose it because all they had it saved once on their hard drive.
Yeah.
It's like, why didn't you fucking email it to yourself? Gmail has 15 gigs of space. Nobody's going to use 15 fucking gigs of space.
I just kept forgetting, you know? It's like,
yeah. And I've had people tell me they've made a movie and their whole workflow in their editing bay crashed, and they had to recapture all the footage and re-edit it all again. It's like, I've never had anything like that happen because I've been so meticulous about saving, because again, I'm so lazy.
It taught me a big lesson, because it was like, you're too lazy to hit like 3 extra buttons, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, for me, I'm too lazy to do it again. Like for me, it would be, I'll do it again. I already did it once.
I hit some extra buttons and had it saved, but instead now I like lazied myself into having to redo a ton of stuff, you know? So.
Absolutely. Well, anyway, I guess we'll call it a day. Or we're gonna reconvene here tomorrow. You break
tomorrow at 10, dude. Well, 10-ish.
Tomorrow 10-ish, because we'll have some more problems that we haven't ever seen before. All right. Well, everybody, I guess stay strange and stay stinky.
Yeah.
See you tomorrow.